Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. You know, over the years, I have shared some pretty luxurious tea sessions with you on camera, but they don't get much more luxurious than this because in front of me, I have two of the most special elite black teas from China, and I'm going to be doing a back-to-back tasting session. The reason why I'm doing them together, because they really should have a video for each one themselves, is because of the fact, well, they've just come in with a shipment of other teas, and we've also got other things like our tea towels and this chabu, which is finally in, plus a really lovely Dueni teapot, which I'm going to do a video about next week. So they're in at the same time, so I'm going to taste them at the same time. Plus, I have done videos about both of these teas before, but this one here is a Jin Jun Mei. I've done videos about Jin Jun Mei, one of the most expensive black teas in the world, one of the most expensive teas in the world. But this is a different style Jin Jun Mei, so I want to introduce that to you. And I have previously done a sample tasting of this Sichuan black tea. You may know which one I'm talking about. This is probably the best tea that you have never heard of before. Maybe a bit presumptuous, but we'll get onto that a bit later. So I'm going to put that to the side. Let's quickly dive into this Jin Jun Mei. As I said, I've done videos about Jin Jun Mei before. It's one of the most expensive teas in the world, a relatively modern black tea produced in Tong Mu, Tong Mu village. If you've not seen my video visiting Tong Mu village, one of the hardest villages to get into. It's not actually open to foreigners, but we managed to sneak our way through. So check out that video if you're interested, and you can see this amazing terroir. And this Jin Jun Mei was invented in that village, and it has fast become one of the most popular gift teas in China, a very, very high ticket tea, a tea which commands a lot of respect and very, very, very high prices, but oftentimes is let down, as is always the case when a tea is overhyped. There's a lot of sort of a decent tea, good tea, even great tea being produced, but it doesn't quite live up to the price tag. And we have in previous years had our Jin Jun Mei, we call it Gleaming Brow. We haven't found it this year, but we found this Jin Jun Mei, which at first glance, if you're judging by looks, I would not have selected. But when I tasted this tea, I absolutely adored it, so we had to get some in. So let's quickly scope this tea. This is from 28th of March 2021. It's from the Xingchun Xiaozhong variety, so the original heirloom variety of the Tong Mu area. The picking and the origin, sorry, I should say, is Tong Mu village in Fujian in China, near the Wuyi Mountains. This is predominantly buds, so it is mostly buds, and you'll see that once they open. And you can see the buds here. Look, they have sort of a grey-brown color, so less of that sort of rich chestnut brown that you would expect from Gleaming Brow. And as I said, if you're judging by looks, I wouldn't say that this is a particularly good-looking Jin Jun Mei, but taste is obviously the most important thing, and I hope that it lives up to the tasting of the sample. So the picking on this is predominantly buds. You'll see a few little fine leaves in there, probably, judging by the look of the dry leaf, and the elevation is about 1,200 meters. I'm going to be brewing this one in my Gong Fu Forever Gai 1. I'm going to heat this baby up. I'm going to move relatively quickly because I've got two tea tastings to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to taste each one separately. They at least deserve that. I don't want to mix and match and taste them at the same time. I was considering doing that, but I've decided against that. We're going to crank the water temperature up to 95 degrees. I have 4 grams of the tea here for 100 ml Gai 1, which is what I would recommend. The little fish gets some hot water, and let's get these leaves in and have our first whiff of 2021 Jin Jun Mei. We're not calling this Gleaming Brow. I'm not quite sure of the name of this yet, but it's not going to be called Gleaming Brow because it doesn't have the same flavor profile or taste profile and look as Gleaming Brow. But this is a Jin Jun Mei from Tong Mu village, and it has an almost Cheeman-like warmth to it. Malted biscuits, malted milk, malted biscuits. It's also got a fruit note to it. I want to say it's a light fruit, it's a cooked fruit. It reminds me of poached pears, very syrupy, very, very sweet. Make sure I stop that. I'm going to brew this at about 95 degrees. because it's buds, I want to be a bit more gentle with the water. So yeah, malted biscuits. You know those malted milk biscuits? Poached pears and syrup. And it has a very airy sort of alpine quality to it as well, right? Yeah, as predicted, just went over 97 degrees. So we're gonna cool it down using the Gong Bei. Very common trick, and I'm gonna be very quick to give the fish the rinse because I don't want to rinse too long. These are buds. You don't even really need to have to rinse these tea leaves. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's just opened up. So I am getting a little bit of a bug-bitten muscatel note. I'm getting violets, lilacs, those sort of powdery sweet flowers. I'm still getting malted milks, but I'm also getting like a bready note to it. So those biscuits are moving more into, I want to say pain perdu, like caramelized, not French toast because I don't want the egginess, but just sort of caramelized breads, raspberry jams, lilacs, malted milks, malted biscuits, and it's starting to reveal a flavor note which I picked up in abundance when I was tasting the sample, which is cinnamon or cassia. Yeah, cinnamon, cassia, raspberry jam, violets, malted biscuits. Incredible. Right, that's still a bit hot, so I'm going to be pouring in here. Turn you off. Okay. So we're going to be brewing for about 25 seconds-ish, something like that. I'm going to warm up our Lotus Royale cup. I didn't think I was going to get a Jin Jun Mei this year. And as I said, this is not a gleaming brow. So if you are thinking, oh great, they've got Jin Jun Mei back in, it's different. This is very, very different. And, you know, all the better for it. You know, it's always good to have some variety in the catalogue. Could have gone through a filter, should have gone through a filter. Okay. Color is a light gold. We'll check out the color on the next infusion, but it is a beautiful light golden color. Cheers, everybody. Texture first. And as you'd expect, with a tea of this quality and this reputation, it is silky, it is soft, it is smooth, it is rounded, it's refreshing on the finish. It's just luxury in the mouth. Very, very soft. And it's that softness to refreshing that you'd expect from a very, very high quality bud Jin Jun Mei. Right, taste. I am starting to pick up that cinnamon immediately. So let's just talk about it. This is what really impressed me about this Jin Jun Mei. I'm used to trying lots and lots of Jin Jun Meis, and I'm used to rejecting lots and lots of Jin Jun Meis, especially Jin Jun Meis, I have to say, that look like that, sort of not particularly, you know, glossy and very fine buds. And I'm very used to tasting lots of flowery Jin Jun Mei, which is liked by some. I like it, but I don't love it. And as I said, it certainly isn't worth the price. However, with this, when I tasted it, I was hit with this cinnamon spice, this sweet cinnamon spice, which I absolutely adored. It reminds me a little bit of cinnamon chewing gum. There was a brand name, I think Dentine was one of the gums that I remember as a kid. Cinnamon chewing gum, if you've ever had, or cinnamon candies, you'll know it's slightly warming, slightly spicy, but very, very sweet. I'm still getting the poached pears in there. The water now is the right temperature, 95 degrees on the nose, so I can pour directly in. And I'm going to, I know, sacrilege, but I'm going to pour these away so I get a nice clear liquor. Don't worry, these buds will go back in. With Jin Jun Mei, you're normally getting around 1,000 buds every 10 grams. It's super labor intensive tea. Right, let's take a look at the color of this liquor. Second infusion is always a better judge. Still getting that malted milk in my mouth. A little bit of like maple syrup in there. Okay, let me get a camera controller and you can see the color of this liquor. And I think what you should remark upon is that this color liquor is definitely lighter than the previous gleaming brows that we used to have in, and hopefully we'll get back in the future. So you can see it's just a different style of Jin Jun Mei. Lovely sort of light golden color. The flowers are coming through as well. So I'm getting the violets, lilacs. With our gleaming brow, it was much more in the chocolatey notes, rose, lychee. This is lighter, more malty, so malted milk, violets, lilacs, still a bit of that poached pear, still a bit of raspberry, and then on the finish, this incredible lingering cinnamon sweetness, which is or was the reason why it finally pushed me over the edge and I had to purchase this tea. It is a very expensive Jin Jun Mei, as all Jin Jun Meis are, but that extra cinnamon sweetness, that lingering cinnamon sweetness is just incredible. A lovely, lovely tea. Very, very drinkable, very, very Moorish. And don't be deceived by its light color. It's actually really impactful and very, very aromatic. I'm going to smell this empty Gong Bei now. Again, poached pears and deep, deep brown sugar. Like slightly burnt sugar, or yeah, very, very dark sugar syrup drizzled over poached pears. And again, this slightly alpine quality to it. And if you watch the video about Tong Mu, then you'll see the terroir has this really lovely mix of a little bit sort of tropical in a way, but also moving into the alpine. It's in a really nice sort of unique part of the world where you get this mix of different vegetation. And you can taste that in the tea. It has a warmth and a depth and a richness, but it's also got a freshness and a lightness of touch, which is lovely. We're going to do one more infusion of this, and then we're going to move on to the second luxury tasting. But please, obviously, if you pick up this tea, then take your time with it. And if you're going to do a back-to-back and copy what I'm doing here, then certainly your session should take a lot longer than this video. Amazing sensation in the mouth afterwards. Just the ultimate in refreshment. It's cooling and juicy and fresh, but then it's got that cinnamon spice, sweetness, you know, and that sort of contributes to this clean feeling. You know, if you chew cinnamon gum, you have a certain, it's sweet, sure, but it also, because of its herbal nature, it has a sense of sort of cleansing and clearing. Take a look at these leaves. You can see how they have blossomed into these beautiful sort of rich chestnut brown color. So yeah, the dry leaves definitely don't reveal the quality of the tea. Well, it's okay. Let me just rephrase that. If you look at those leaves, they look amazing. They would stand up in the top 5% of black teas out there in terms of looks. But when you're comparing it to other Jin Jun Meis, it might not look quite the same. But you can see here, these leaves are, or these buds, I should say, and they are mostly buds, predominantly buds, are beautiful. All right, last taste of this, and I'm going to put this to the side and move on to the Sichuan black tea. Ah, super cinnamon spice, sweetness in my mouth. Yeah. Raspberry jam, violets, malted milks, a little bit of wintergreen, a little bit of that again, Chiman style alpine note to it as well. Delicious. Okay, let's put that to the side. I know. Doing 2.5 infusions of a Jin Jun Mei. But as I said, I will get back to it because I want to focus some of this video onto this very, very special tea. And when I said before that it's probably the best tea that you've never heard of, maybe that's a bit presumptuous, of course, but I had never heard of this tea before tasting the sample earlier this year. I've obviously looked it up and found out information, but there's very little information about this tea on there. So if you've heard of this tea before watching my previous video, then hats off to you. But I would guess that the vast majority of even the most seasoned tea heads out there have not heard of this tea. This is Huang Jin Bailu. This is translated as golden white dew. Let's quickly scope this tea and we'll talk about it. First of all, before we scope it, just take a look at the beauty of these tea buds. And these are hand-picked buds, just like Jin Jun Mei, but much, much finer, as you can see. I did count over 100 buds per gram, so that means you're probably looking at about 1,200 buds per 10 grams of tea. So very, very labor intensive. This is entirely hand-picked tea from Sichuan. This is picked in September 2020. So this is an autumn black tea, unusual. This is from old tea trees, over 100 years old, maybe possibly edging up towards the Gushu territory of 200 years old. So definitely over 100-year-old, growing in the semi-wild alpine tea forests of Yunlian County in Yibin in Sichuan in China. The picking on this is single buds, as you can see, and as I said, very fine pickings, about 1,200 buds for 10 grams. This is 4 grams, so this is about 500 or 600 buds in this porcelain scoop, and hand-rolled and very deeply fermented or oxidized. The elevation of these alpine forests is upwards to about 1,200 meters. Looks stunning. Huang Jin Bailu, as I said, I had never heard of it before. It is a very rare tea, and I've looked up information about this tea on Chinese websites and spoken to the scout who sourced this tea for us. Huang Jin Bailu basically means, or translates as golden, yellow gold, white dew. White dew refers to the time of picking. So white dew is a period of time in China in the autumn period. So this is September 2020, this tea. So it's had a year of aging as well. So white dew, the reason why it's called white dew is because of the time of year its picking. They refer to white as being the color of autumn because white is associated with the metal element in the 5-element theory, and metal is associated with autumn. So white is therefore associated with autumn, and dew, because when the temperature drops, the dew stays on the plants for longer. So that's what I've read. So that's why it's called white dew. And you can obviously tell why it's called golden. So golden white dew. And it's again, just like Jin Jun Mei, a relatively modern tea. 1959 was when it was first produced. It was first produced for Chairman Mao. The story goes that they never would pick tea during Bailu season. But on this occasion, they picked picked and processed about 400 to 500 grams of this Huang Jin Bailu, and they sent it as a tribute to Chairman Mao, who sent a letter back saying thank you. I don't know how much he appreciated it or if he even got to taste it, but I am now. Let's get these beautiful buds in. Okay, and let's hope it's as mind-blowing as the sample. Oh, it does not disappoint. And in fact, I could have told you that because when I opened the bag, when it arrived at the warehouse, I mean, the whole of my nose was filled with the most incredible aromatics. So I'm getting dark chocolate biscuits. I'm getting candied pecans. I'm getting dark baked bread. Oh, I'm getting lychee. I'm getting rose. I'm picking up a slightly, don't remember this from the sample tasting, but a little bit like red wine. Yeah, red wine or even the barrel of a red wine. So just that sort of slightly winey casket. But that's really in the background. The predominance, and that gives a nice little acidity on the nose. The predominance is these chocolate malted biscuits, rose, lychee, and this caramel and pecans and baked bread. Very, 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 very quick rinse. Which I'm actually going to sip on. I'm not going to give you my tasting notes, but I mean, both, it's just sort of like, it's a bit ridiculous because I know that everyone watching this is going to be thinking, okay, so this is the very special tea and the Jin Jun Mei is, you know, the second tea here. I don't want that impression to come across. I know that it will because I'm super excited to try a new tea, but this is Jin Jun Mei, one of the most expensive teas in the world, so please don't get that impression. Oh my gosh. Very, very special teas, both of them. Right, let's crank the temperature back up and let's smell these wet leaves. Oh, it's so complex. You really could spend a good half an hour sniffing this. So I'm picking up the same main events are there. Chocolate, dark chocolate, lychee, rose. The baked bread and the chocolate work together. I'm getting like, I'm getting a bit of toasted coconut with pain au chocolat, like a coconut pain au chocolat. There's a little wood varnish on the background. Gives it a certain sort of, it certainly raises your attention. So a little bit of a lacquer smell to it, with all of that coconutty, caramelized pecans and pain au chocolat, dark chocolate. Lychee and rose are there, but more when you sort of let the Gaiwan just sort of pass by, because they are the most transient of the aromatics. Yep. Overboiled the water. So short sniffs, you'll pick up the flowers and the fruit. But when you get your nose in, it's that chocolate. Dark, croissants, chocolate, coconut, that little bit of lacquered wood, and still got the caramelized pecan, but quite dark caramelized pecans. Okay, so the old Gong Bei trick. Cool down the water a little bit. Got 4 grams of both of these teas in 100 ml Gaiwan. Brewing it 95 for both. I'm going to put this through a filter, about 25 seconds or so. Let me know if you have heard or if you have tried Huang Jin Bailu before, because it was a new one to me. And clearly, what's so wonderful about tea is that you're doing it for 20 years and you're always discovering new things every single day. I will again wait for the second infusion, but you can see darker tea. Again, much more in the realm of, in terms of the look, in terms of the look of the dry leaf, in terms of the look of the liquor, and in terms of the smell and probably the taste, much more like the Gleaming Brow Jin Jun Mei. So if this is a lighter, maltier, spicier, sweeter one, this is much closer to the Jin Jun Mei, but I don't really want it to be seen as a sort of an imitation of Jin Jun Mei because it needs to stand in its own right. Very, very thick, nice little bubble action going on there. Texture in the mouth is just, again, pure luxury. Probably a bit thicker than the Jin Jun Mei. Soft, oily, thick, coating, lubricating, but has a little extra edge to the finish, a little dryness to the finish. But when I say dryness, nothing compared to 99% of your tea experience. It's still uber, uber soft. Look at that. Very, very thick. Oh. And the flavor is just a continuation of the aromatics. Dark chocolate, malted chocolate, like a malted chocolate shake, but very, very deep in its cocoa. Candied pecans. The rose and the lychee, again, much more in the background. In fact, I'm getting a little bit more of a raisin note to it, like dark chocolate covered raisins. Delicious. And the way that it leaves my mouth, very, very juicy. It doesn't have the cinnamon sweetness that this Jin Jun Mei has. Instead, it's got a more tingly sensation. And the sweetness is, again, more in that sort of raisins and powdered sugar, icing sugar. You can see the color. Deeper, rich chestnut sort of brown color there. Really, really lovely. And I can tell you just from the first infusion, has a potency about it, this tea. And I do recall that from the session that I had with Celine, that we got pretty tea drunk off this tea. And whether or not that's the cultivar, whether or not that's the area, whether or not that's the processing, or whether or not, and I suspect it's mostly this, because of the fact that these are older tea trees growing in their natural terroir. I don't know the exact reason, but it seems to be a very potent effect. And while the Jin Jun Mei would be comfortable, refreshing, and sort of settling in terms of its body sensation, this one immediately feels more heating, more rising, more excitable. And that's not just because I am tasting a relatively new tea that I am in love with. It's those deep, dark chocolate notes that just keep you coming back with the raisins. And I think as the infusions start to roll through, you're going to pick up more of the sweet lychees and roses. But as I drink, the feeling down my throat is one of potency. I can feel like an engine is being like started in me, or like a fire is being lit in my stomach. It's a very, very active tea. And I'm not often using this kind of terminology to talk about black teas, because black teas overall, at least for me, tend to be quite a settling brew. It tends to be the tea that I opt for when I want a little bit of a sort of calm stimulation. This feels a little bit more buzzy, a bit more sort of lifted than that. Wow. Wow. What a luxury session, tasting 2 elite black teas. In fact, Jin Jun Mei is going to come back out to play. Let's set this up. Whew, yeah, that tea is strong. Now, I only have 5 kilos of this tea, okay? Because the price, as you may have seen in the last video, the sample video, we were really tortured by whether or not to spend the money on this tea. The price is, very, very high. So we've only got 5 kilos, and I'll tell you right now, I'm taking at least 300 grams of this tea, possibly more, because, I don't know if I'm going to get it again, etc., etc. So I want some for my stash, a fair chunk of this tea for my stash. So we've probably got about 4.7 kilos of this tea. So if you really want to try this Huang Jin Bailu, then, we don't have that much of it. Jin Jun Mei, we've got a small batch, but we've got a little bit more. I think we've got about 20 kilos of that tea. So still relatively small. Much more flowery, much more sweet. This is a little bit richer, deeper, darker in those forests. This is sweeter, more sugared, more more cinnamon. So much cinnamon going on in that. Talk about rogueway and cassia flavor for oolongs. This is one of the most cinnamon teas I've tasted. So if you like that sweet cinnamon taste, and I do, then there's definitely one to try. You can see the color difference here between the Jin Jun Mei and the Huang Jin Bailu. Again, I don't have a name for this, but it'll probably be something around Huang Jin Bailu. So, Jin Jun Mei, Huang Jin Bailu, let's quickly do a back-to-back. Oh, it's like coming out of a meadow, just, violets and lilacs and flowers. Great. But then this spicy, sweet, and the feeling it leaves on the mouth, powdery, fresh and sweet. And now I'm back in this sort of like secret forest with a basket, a picnic basket of the best delights, like lychee syrups and pain au chocolats and toasted coconuts and caramelized pecans. Both incredible. Definitely a potent tea, this one. If you are sort of looking for a black tea that is going to get you tea lifted, and you don't want to move into the pu'er territory, this is definitely one to go for. But then on the flip side, if you do not want to be too, if you want to choose a tea which does not get you too excited late at night, then make sure you, see, I can't even speak. Make sure that you don't pick this tea, because this tea will definitely keep you up. 2 elite, top teas, Jin Jun Mei from Tong Mu, Fujian, and Huang Jin Bailu from Sichuan. A luxury session. If you get to experience this yourself, then please do let me know your thoughts. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the pinnacle stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.